To defend ourselves is to attack.
You know, you should wake up, Val. Your father's speaking. You might learn something.
He's making all this up as he goes along. You don't see that?
I wonder how he got here and what he's after. Is it really all so easy that he just came across us?
You are an everlasting spirit, Freddy.
I don't believe you. You make this up. I know you're trying to calm me down, but just say something that's true!
Are you thoughtless in your remarks? Do your past failures bother you? Is your life a struggle? Is your behavior erratic? What are you running from?
He's dangerous. And he will be our undoing if we continue to have him here.
If we are not helping him, then it is we who have failed him.
Perhaps he's past help. Or insane.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers. I forget. Why do I forget who I am? That's not even a reference to the Master, which obviously has this sort of dialogue. That wasn't even supposed to be a joke. Oh God, who are you?
I'm David Whiting, you pig fuck.
There it is. There it is. In a weird state of events, which I think I alluded to in There Will Be Blood. This will, even though our next episode, Inherent Vice, comes out next week, it will be 4.5 months before we record it. In between the Master here and there, which I think, in a way, has worked in our favour, Anderson-wise, because I guess, but no, I do still consider Punch Drunk Love part of that sort of, I guess you'd say, Coke energy.
Yeah, it still feels very like 70s in a way, if that makes sense.
It feels, and I mean this in the best possible way, it feels young and experimental.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, I mean there was a lot of stuff in Punch Drunk Love where you kind of see it happen. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Like the car crash at the very beginning, and
yeah, that feels akin to the other word. The only other word is cockiness. I mean, he was incredibly young making Boogie Nights and said, no. This is either going to be X-rated or be over 3 hours. Yeah. So give me, it's one or the other. You decide. And then to pull it off, and then to Magnolia, which opinions vary on the frog the frog aspects, but for lack of a better way to say it, he does pull it off.
Yeah.
And that's where we stopped last time. This time we've done There Will Be Blood and The Master, which I also think are two incredibly they're two masterpieces again, obviously, but they are two films incredibly attuned with one another. I don't know if you felt the same way watching it this time.
They do have very similar tones. I feel like it. They feel like they kind of stand on their own against all of his other movies that we've seen so far in a way. I don't know. I mean, there's something of the psychological element, especially in this one. That it feels much more introspective, these movies, in a way. If that makes sense. It's less about the spectacle of what's going on and more about the inner turmoil of who we're following, in a way.
You know, it was obviously Punch Drunk Love is a character study, but it is of two people, and in a sense, you also get all of his sisters and all that sort of thing, and there's all this stuff happening around them. Whereas with There Will Be Blood, it's the character study of one man, and sure, there are others, but it is largely about two men's a relationship between two men that has an incredible arc and of course ends with horrid violence. This can be much the same, except there isn't it doesn't end in violence, but there is I guess it's friendship. I guess you'd say it's the tale of a friendship. I don't know.
Which one do you think is the more toxic of the two relationships between There Will Be Blood and this and The Master?
I don't know. I think that The Master I think Freddie and Lancaster. Freddie offers Lancaster a break in a sense. And I've always, I don't know, Slow Boat to China at the end has always felt to me of you were the, I mean, sure, you believed everything and you loved my cause and all that sort of thing, and you believed it for the most part, but you gave me a sort of break of, I can't even explain it. I don't know. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the thing when I watched this movie is what is Dodd getting out of his relationship with Freddie in a way? I mean, because he's already got people he can manipulate. He's already got people that will do whatever he asks of them with no question. What and it seems to me like Freddie is just dangerously unhinged and if anything damaging to the cause, as it were.
Yeah.
Um,
It's we don't get the sense that he reminds him of his younger self because they're around the same age, and I don't imagine Lancaster's childhood being or teen or younger years being as manic, for lack of a better way to say, compared to Freddie's. I think it's kind of. I think they both have the same level of bullshit in that they both believe in the cause to some respect, but also Freddie obviously by the end breaks free, chooses to break free. Whatever's going through his mind on that motorcycle at the end, he decides I'm going to keep on driving. I can't be here anymore. I don't know. Because he's not like Val. He's not like, like Jesse Plemons. But then again, Jesse Plemons does the opposite, and he's still there in London when he comes. And now seems to be more involved than ever.
yeah, it's a tough one. And I find myself questioning throughout the movie just how much of his own shit Phillip Seymour Hoffman believes,
Yeah.
But that's what makes it great.
It's an incredible, incredible film. It sticks with you, I think, more than any of his others. There'll Be Blood has large.
Scene alone.
Well, yeah, but like There'll Be Blood has large questions about capitalism and the nature of man, and Magnolia has the what the fuck quality of the frogs that stays with you, and Phantom Thread, which we'll get to, has also aspects of unanswered question. Not really. No, it doesn't have unanswered questions, but it has a sort of lingering, okay, I'm going to be thinking about this for a while quality. Whereas, but above all, this has the most unknowable elements. It has the most obtuseness, I think. It has the most obscurity. It has the most absurdity, even at times. And it does leave one with, I'm going to be thinking about this for months. I watched this movie, when did we originally have this planned? I can't even remember, 3 weeks ago. And I've watched it again since. And these are, it's been sticking around for the past 3 weeks to such a level where I still feel completely ready now as when I did 3 weeks ago. So it's an odd one. And only on rewatch does it I guess grow more complex.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies where you can come back to it over and over again and always find something new, I think.
Yeah. And I think in a sense, it alienates you. I remember on a first watch going, like, that was one of the best films I've ever seen. But what the fuck? What was London? What was the ending? He's having a dream. Why did he leave? Now he's having sex with Winnie from Manchester. Okay, all right, yeah, I guess they didn't know how to end it, I guess. But now over time, every one of those final moments feels so well chosen and deliberate, and well, yeah, no, it's completely it's completely wonderful. I love it. Is there a part of where on the current scale of things, David? Where is this in your Anderson rankings?
I think this sits right next to There Will Be Blood for me. I think I might have enjoyed Boogie Nights a little more just because I find Boogie Nights to be a fun romp. except for the steady downfall.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but looking back on Boogie Nights with the context that I now have, I think it's a more fun movie. But I think this one is excellent. Dark, brooding, psychological movies rarely make me want to come back and watch them again. But I enjoyed watching this one a second time.
Yeah, there is something about it. Anderson has often said that this is his favorite film of his own, and I get it. It feels like his biggest swing. It feels like his biggest swing, and the fact that it connected, and that people liked it, and that it was an Oscar favorite. Didn't win anything, obviously, but it was there in the Oscar race, and people liked it. I think there was an initial sort of, because There Will Be Blood, sort of immediately people were like, "Oh, this is one of the great films of the 21st century," and so there was a bit of an expectation. I remember reading my Empire magazine, and the feature on The Master opened with, I mean, I'm completely paraphrasing here, but it opened with saying, after making one of the greatest films of our time, There Will Be Blood, Paul Thomas Anderson is back. But what is The Master? And I was thinking, yeah, that is kind of true. What is? How can you?
I'm not
top
entirely
that?
sure what I'm not entirely sure what the ultimate message of this movie is. I mean, it's clearly making some allusions kind of to Scientology and like cult culture in America in general. I think it's interesting that Freddie is himself like a veteran of the military, because we see a lot of the times like American military veterans getting caught up in these sorts of like groups. So I don't know. It feels very topical, and yet I struggle to pin down the meaning, I guess.
Yeah, I think, well, these are the combination of things that were going through Anderson's mind when it came to inspiration. So he combined unused scenes from early drafts of There Will Be Blood. I have no idea which aspects. Yeah. Elements from the life stories of John Steinbeck and L. Ron Hubbard. The novel V by Thomas Pynchon, and stories that Jason Robards told him on the set of Magnolia about his drinking days in the US Navy during World War II, including, as we see, the draining of ethanol from a torpedo to make into his this miraculous potion. And then Anderson also conducted research about Dianetics and its followers, and its early followers, pardon me. While writing, Anderson sought Hoffman's feedback on the script, with Hoffman actually suggesting that the film should focus more on Freddie than Lancaster. So I get the initial, it seems to me that the initial sort of Freddie was a nice vessel into the film, but then it became ultimately a lot more about the cause itself rather than Freddie.
I think that was a good change. I don't know that we needed to know more about Dodd and the cause in general. I think having Freddie as the audience POV kind of character is better.
Yeah,
personally.
And the fact that he comes through at the end, and that this is a story of a absolute nomad coming in and out of a specific time in his life, and we see the prologue, we see the epilogue in Manchester, and he comes in and out, and then in London, and then that's a period of his life. I don't know where the hell Freddie goes from here.
Yeah, God only knows.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that in terms of big question. Another huge influence on this film was John Huston, another John Huston movie, which of course ties There Will Be Blood again. His documentary about PTSD and war veterans, Let There Be Light, which is as a bonus feature on my Blu-ray, and is a great documentary, and was incredibly, I guess you'd say, provocative, but certainly one of the first to really talk about PTSD on a documentary scale. And I guess that's what haunts the entire film, is this element of undiagnosed PTSD, or at least diagnosed as much as it could have been at the time. Which leads.
Yeah, I mean, Freddie's pretty typical of, I think, a lot of dudes that come out, and I mean, we see that he wasn't even necessarily very well accepted in the military. He was sort of an odd man out even there. He's clearly a man desperate to belong to something, and just can't seem to find it, and his PTSD doesn't make it any easier for him to relate to the people around him.
Yeah, and as you say, as we've seen before, another element, a fine place to find group mentality and everybody sticking together is in a religion, or in this case, in a cult. Yeah. I'll drop a fun fact now. Not really a fun fact, but Joaquin Phoenix's parents escaped the infamous Children of God cult in the 1970s. So there is something about that sort of element that obviously intrigued Phoenix. And I don't know whether he brought information of that when it came to collaborating with Anderson. Let's talk about these sorts of figures now in Anderson's later half of career. It's harder to talk about. No, we'll talk about this after Phantom Thread and after Inherent Vice, because like Phoenix becomes a figure. He stars in this and then goes on to work with them again in Inherent Vice in an entirely different, more comedic part. And then Daniel Day-Lewis makes his last film to date, and if he is completely truthful in what he says, his last film ever, with Phantom Thread. And I don't want to spoil anything, but you're going out on a high, Daniel, so don't worry about that. And of course, yeah. And the saddest part of all is that this is Anderson's last collaboration with Phillip Seymour Hoffman. Of course, Phillip Seymour Hoffman goes on to die within a year or 2 years of this. Let me double check. But it's not long at all.
What would have been his very last movie?
He made 2 movies in the same year. He directed one of them.
Was it Hunger Games?
Well, no, you've got me there. Technically, he is CGI in that, isn't he? Yes, no. It's not a great story, but I remember watching, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, and there was a scene with Julianne Moore and Phillip Seymour Hoffman on screen, and I thought, good God, do I wish I was watching Magnolia? Or good God, do I wish this was Amber Waves and Scotty J talking about, Duke's a good name. 2000. So he dies in 2014. Both Mockingjays are posthumous releases, but also that year he's in A Most Wanted Man, which is a really, really solid John Le Carré adaptation. He's really great in it, and it's a really good film. And God's Pocket, which he didn't direct it, but somebody else did, who I love, certainly, John Slattery, who of course I love and know and love as Roger from Mad Men. I have my Mad Men box set right here. There he is. There's wonderful John.
Oh, lovely.
He directed Jack Goes Boating. That was the Philip Seymour Hoffman movie, which is a nice little indie drama. God's Pocket's pretty solid. It's sort of like just a little independent movie. Hoffman died within 2 weeks of the film's premiere at Sundance. Great. Let's talk about the Oscars whilst I've got my
your favorite subject.
My favorite subject of all. If it's either my favorite subject of all or the least favorite thing I enjoy talking about.
You have a love-hate relationship with the Oscars, I think. You couldn't live without them, but you hate everything about how they run.
I've just come to terms, David, with the fact that I will be at sea for the Oscars, which means that I will have not been able to watch many of the films. It's going to be a real tough time, March 2020, whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the Oscars. So it doesn't get nominated for Best Picture or Best Director, despite this being the goddamn 10 nominations thing. We have Argo winning. I like Argo fine, but do you remember Argo, David?
I remember Argo going by, and I remember thinking, I don't really need to see that.
Yeah. That wins Best Picture. Amour, beautiful film by Michael Haneke. Django was nominated this year. Life of Pi, Les Miserables, Lincoln, Zero Dark 30, Beasts of the Southern Wild, and Silver Linings Playbook.
Dark 30 had an Oscar nomination?
Zero Dark 30 was, big Best Picture. Didn't get nominated for Best Director, Ang Lee wins for Life of Pi, Michael Haneke for Amour, Steven Spielberg for Lincoln, David O. Russell, Civilized Playbook, and Benet Zetlin for Beasts of the Southern Wild. So, pretty lackluster, really, when you look at it.
Other than Django, really.
Yeah, I think Django has, of all these films, had a lasting appeal. Amour is a beautiful, beautiful film, but it's also two elderly French people coming to terms with the wife's dementia. So it's not the feel-good film of the year.
Yeah, afraid not.
So you won't be rushing to watch Amour. But your nominations, The Master, I just don't. I guess we've talked about this at the start, though. It's a film that sticks with you, but on a first watch. Well, no, on a first watch, I thought, "Wow, this is incredible." I
mean, I remember thinking it's excellent, but I don't know if audiences would walk away from it like thinking. It leaves a lasting impression. I don't know if that impression is necessarily like, "Wow, that was an amazing movie." It's more like that was something else.
Well, if you look at it gets three big nominations, with, of course, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Supporting Actress. And in every case, I think it's what you're talking about. So Joaquin Phoenix, The Master, loses to Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. On a first watch of Lincoln, you go, "Oh, wow, he became Lincoln. Wow, that's incredible," and all that sort of thing. But then on multiple watches of The Master, you go, "This is probably Joaquin Phoenix's best performance." It's so incredibly subtle, but also manic. Yeah. It's astounding work. And if you were voting again, you'd probably vote Joaquin over Daniel.
All these characters have so many layers to them that get sort of peeled away, but never fully. And you just have to wonder, like, what sorts of choices those actors are making. Because I mean, there's just so much, But it's certainly not I mean, it is subtle, like you say. Whereas Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln is Lincoln, and I think that just.
And it's people. It's the same thing here, which I have a performance. All three of these performances, by the way, I like. Of Best Supporting Actor, Christoph Waltz winning for Django. Again, an incredible performance that sticks with you, that does stick with you, and is entertaining, but is also sad, and is the perfect sort of Best Supporting Actor win of he is funny, he's charming, but also he's dramatic, and he has a big important death that shapes the film. It's a perfect Best Supporting Actor win. But Phillip Seymour Hoffman as Lancaster, undoubtedly, on a granular level, it's one of those things of, you're probably going to, on the year of 2014, you'll go, no, Christoph Waltz, I remember him. But then again, on rewatches. And I think the biggest of all of these is Anne Hathaway winning for Les Mis. Incredible performance. And she sings I Dreamed a Dream, and she's wonderful, and it's great. But also nominated is Amy Adams as Peggy Dodd. I adore Amy Adams, David. I don't know if this has ever come up. I love Amy Adams with all my heart, and this is a sublime performance that really, really does creep up over you over time. Doesn't have the I Dreamed a Dream moment. Well, it does, but it's wanking Phillip Seymour Hoffman off into a sink, and you're not going to show that as the Oscar clip. So, Amy Adams in The Master, get your best behavior out. You're not going to show that on primetime AMC Academy Awards.
I have a question because I mean, I know that if you asked Phillip Seymour Hoffman when he was alive, and you asked Amy Adams, is this a movie about Scientology? Is this like a direct correlation to L. Ron Hubbard? The answer was always no. But did the Church of Scientology ever come out and make a statement about this movie that you know of, or did they have a position towards it?
So,
because I'd be curious to know.
Here we've got Paul Thomas Anderson has acknowledged that L. Ron Hubbard and the Church of Scientology served as a partial basis for the character of Lancaster Dodd and his cult, The Cause. Partial, sure, Paul. This revelation sparked much discussion in the press, as the Church of Scientology has a long history of litigation against critics of Hubbard, to be nice. Though the church released no official comment on the film, Anderson claims that he screened the film for his friend.
Oh, no.
You remember a little film called Magnolia we watched, David?
Yeah.
Do you remember who was in that film?
A certain Cruise
Yeah,
type.
that's the guy. He screened it for Tom Cruise. The brass balls on Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't know. And according to Anderson, Cruise erupted with anger, specifically objecting to scenes where Dodd's son Val admits that Dodd made up the tenets of the cause, which parallels real life admissions by Hubbard's son. Anderson has admitted to a heated exchange with Cruise, though both the actor and director have kept details of their argument and the outcome private. But many people say that they are now nice with each other again.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall in that screening room.
That would be incredible. Somebody needs to write. If The Master was a film that people held dearly, I would love to write that play. You know, like if it was a film that is like a classic as, I don't know, any other thing.
Star Wars.
Yes,
Culturally relevant.
I'd write that play. Paul Thomas Anderson and Tom Cruise watching Star Wars.
There we go.
Yeah. So I think they did the sort of there's no smoke without a fire. What did Tennessee Williams say? There's no smoke without a fire. But if you put water on a fire, it makes more smoke. Again, I think I might be paraphrasing.
Tennessee Williams in his classic stuck-up English gent voice.
I was trying to be a southern gentleman. Tennessee Williams, smoke without fire.
Don't worry, everyone. We eventually will talk about The Master.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Oh, for God's sake. The problem is that he wrote a great play called Summer and Smoke. So that's all that's coming up. This will annoy me. That's beside the point. It's fair to say that this was not the box office success that There Will Be Blood was. I don't think everybody thought There Will Be Blood was going to be a huge hit, but as I sort of, not guessed, as I sort of figure with There Will Be Blood, it was boosted by the Oscar buzz. This was not. Budget of 32 million, box office of 28.3 million. Yeah, not great. But he has become, like Licorice Pizza was not a huge box office hit, but he has become a figure where it is the case of, not really like a Tarantino, because Tarantino's movies make a lot of money, but it's that sort of thing of, we can take a bath on this. It's going to make at least its money. It's going to at least break even. Let's fund this or two. There's not many around though.
And it's generally, you know, they, even if it's not a huge box office success right away, his movies have a way of sticking around in people's minds, and people do come back to them. So,
and people loved talking about Licorice Pizza. I can't wait to talk about Licorice Pizza and all the wonderful, wonderful conversations everybody had about it. Best 10-minute stretch then. Here we are. Oh, it feels so weird talking about the film. No, we've been talking about the film this time. Right, I've got here 7 nominations. Then you tell me if I'm missing one or if we can award. Again, I just did Dead Poets Society with my friend Katrina. I don't want to be cute, and I said to her very early on. I said, we don't need to be cute here. The answer is, oh, Captain, my Captain, and such as the same is here. The answer is the processing scene. There is no way around that. It is one of the great dialogue, great performances of all time.
It's excellent.
But let's humor ourselves. Let's do a few nominations. Opening wartime on the beach and sort of seeing Freddie in war before he comes back home. And it's another sort of prologue akin to There Will Be Blood. Of sort of, he's got the time as an author he's got the time, the budget, and the money to say, we're going to spend the first 10 minutes here talking about this guy's wartime.
It feels very similar to Daniel Day-Lewis digging in the gold mine sort of sequence, yeah.
And you get it. You get the entire character of Freddie after watching that first 10 minutes. Much as the same as you get the entire character of Daniel knowing that he was in the middle of nowhere alone and dragged himself back. Then I've made a bit of a jump. Best 10-minute stretch, next nomination. On the boat, meeting Lancaster and the wedding.
Yep.
And sort of that first ingratiation in. And you get it.
Yeah,
I don't want to make out like I would fall for a
he
cult.
gets swept right up. He gets swept right up. It's fun. It's welcoming. He's being treated like he's special. It's
And I
probably the
just,
first time he's ever
yeah.
been special.
And anybody who's listening to this, if you want me to join your cult, invite me to a wedding. I love weddings. I love weddings so much. And if you want to invite me into your cult, I'll be there. If the meeting is a wedding, and then at the end, the morning after at breakfast, it better be a hotel and it better be breakfast. And the morning after you go, we wondered if you wanted to come to one of our meetings. Sure. I had a great night. I love weddings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, it was nice on you.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Next one. As I said, would you care for some informal processing? Which is a perfect 10-minute stretch because then it also leads into those first Doris flashbacks, which are simultaneously unnerving because of how ambiguous they are about their nature. And we sort of get glimpses as it goes along. But initially, because Joaquin Phoenix is an old in the face man. And this is clearly a child. Ancient.
Yeah.
And
his appearance in this, have you ever seen the picture of that man? I think it was World War I or World War II. They took a picture of his face before and after his time on the front. And that's what Joaquin Phoenix looks like to me throughout this whole movie, especially during the processing scene.
No, good. Yeah, no, that's true. Then I've got New York party at Mildred Drummond's house with the famous pig fuck line, and the guy commenting. It has been said, of course, that cause methods can cure leukemia, and that is, of course, the will of one man, which is the basis of a cult, is it not? And that incredible. Which obviously ends up haunting them for the rest of the film is Mildred Drummond.
He absolutely nails him to the wall there.
And then we immediately cut to him writing, and Amy Adams, all of these people fighting against you, and sat on the edge of the bed. You're going, oh, okay, so Peggy's interested. Val on the porch. Which starts off with Jesse Plemons' first, he's making it all up. And that's the first sort of glimpse we have of somebody not biting the bullet, which immediately then leads into the police arriving, led by H.M. Tilford from There Will Be Blood. I don't know if they're the same character. Well, I know they're not, but which leads into, bless you, which leads into the prison cell sequence with some incredible physical acting. And yeah, Joaquin, go wild.
I was going to say you can't just go past the prison scene. I was wondering if you missed that one for your face. I mean, I don't know if it's quite 10 minutes, but I do love just the juxtaposition of Joaquin absolutely going insane in his prison cell, while Todd stands there calmly and then proceeds to just tear him down.
Yeah. Well, it's a very obvious clash of personalities, but Lancaster is all interior and Freddy is all exterior. And it begs the question, which is healthier? Because Freddy lets it all out, whereas Lancaster keeps it all in. And then when he does erupt, it's in the middle of Mildred Drummond's party with, if you don't want your questions answered, then why do you ask the pig fuck? And he snaps. And Freddy is constantly letting it all out. And it's not that either's healthy, really. You've got to find a balance. But it is that sort of, I guess, the tendencies of the cause, which is, no, it's all about expulsion. Getting rid of, let's just cut the bullshit. Scientology, the removal of thetans is the chief tenet of that religion. And it's all about removing the anger in you, removing all the negativity. It's all about getting rid of it all. And Freddy does get rid of it in his own way, by screaming, by shouting, by violence. And in those moments after, he seems to be if not well-adjusted,
at least calmer. And, it's one of those things. He's clearly got a lot of unresolved issues, and ultimately he's not resolving any of them. He's just flying off the handle and letting some steam out, and then proceeds to bubble right back up again.
Next nomination, I've got The Conference, the talking to Bill first from the Mildred Drummond party. What do you think? I think it stinks. And then Laura Dern's Helen coming over to discuss. Of course, there's so many differences. There's a little difference on page 13. You change the first line of the processing to be, can you imagine, instead of can you recall? And he goes, yes, we're trying something different to see if it broaches different responses. And then again, picking away, the wonderful Laura Dern, picking away until, what do you want, Helen? Until he snaps. And again,
it's tough being a prophet of the one true God.
It's tough being, it's hard being the king. And then finally the telephone dream, and come to England, you'll love it here, which I guess we can discuss more in Tom's big question. We're going to take our first break, and then we're going to talk about no bullshit, the definite best 10-minute stretch, the processing sequence, one of the great sequences of our time, for lack of a better way to say it. And we're back, and David now has video. For now, it may corrupt. It may corrupt like all beautiful things. Let's talk about the processing scene. It is undoubtedly two actors at the top of their game with incredibly provocative, enticing, entertaining in a perverse way dialogue, built around an incredible, there goes the camera, an incredibly physical conceit that demands an actor. It's people talk. Sean Fennessy is an incredible writer and podcaster and all that sort of thing. And he was talking about how Licorice Pizza gives Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman lots of opportunities to not have to be great actors by having Anderson put them in lots of running. And, that's a physical human thing that then makes everything that they do after that feel more realistic. Joaquin Phoenix having not to blink and, being physically available to really slap himself as hard as he does makes that performance in that scene intoxicating, vulnerable, and shocking and brilliant to this day.
Yeah, I mean, he's just built for a close-up, man. I mean, it's a scene of just two actors' faces, and it is so gripping, the two of them. There's just so much going on behind their eyes. I mean, it's disturbing, intriguing at the same time. I mean, you want to look away, but you kind of can't. And the way that the questions just get more and more personal and strange is really
invasive.
Unsettling. Yeah, it's great.
It's great technique. I'll praise the cause. Why not? No, it's great technique. Start with the simple stuff and then have them be fixated on the eye thing so that you can ask them anything. It's a really good technique, Mr. Dodd. You've made a wonderful cult.
And it just so happens to be exactly the way Scientology does it.
And I think I want to talk about something that we mentioned. We're both actors and all that sort of thing. And I sent you the wonderful blooper reel of them shooting the mint calls section, which in the film is in it for like 1 second because they couldn't get it and they have to cut away. And it's in Phillip Seymour Hoffman not being able to say the line, "I love cools," the minty flavor. And every time he starts laughing and he goes, "Shut the fuck up." And it's wonderful, wonderful. And you said how refreshing it was to see two of the best break.
Yeah.
Which then led me to say, what's even more refreshing is that there's not really any bad stories about, and I'm not talking Me Too, I don't want to be dark, but like there's no I don't know, Jared Leto method bullshit about Philip or Joaquin. I mean, I'm on personal first name basis with them apparently, but like there's no bullshit, there's no like this is, and them laughing in between takes and all that sort of stuff. I mean, there are method actors who have been absolutely fine for years and nobody has a bad word to say about them and all that. But it is so refreshing to have these incredibly demanding performances not be marred by any, and they hated each other behind the scenes. And and Joaquin Phoenix really did have to go masturbate on a beach or something.
It's just two brilliantly talented actors doing what actors should be able to do, which is walk into the room, give the performance, be the character for however long they need to be, and then drop it.
There's a joke in Out of Bounds about Milton Hopkins, who is a sort of pseudo Daniel Day-Lewis character, and it's his wife who says, "I'm not actually sure he was a great actor. I mean, sure, if you gave him 5 years, and you know, he could literally become that person." And that's supposed to be a funny joke and not meant to undermine Daniel Day-Lewis, who I do adore multiple of his performances. But like Age of Innocence, he's just a nice, stately English gentleman, and that is a wonderful performance. Anyway, that's beside the point. Tom's weirdly specific favorite parts of the film. The opening shot of the water might be the most beautiful image of blue water I've ever seen. It's absolutely stunning. This film was shot on 70mm, and again feels akin to Hateful Eight. Tarantino shooting that on 70mm, and I think a lot of people think of 70mm as a chance to do Lawrence of Arabia, and this film does have a lot of beautiful vistas, but is largely, I mean, we just talked for 5 minutes about a 5-minute scene of two people talking in a room.
In a very dark room.
Very dark room indeed, but it does bring out a rich vintage quality that is perfect for this film. I love the Rorschach test. Well, that's a pussy. A lady's pussy. That looks like a cock going inside a pussy. That looks like a cock upside down. And then the best part is the man going, "Thank you."
Thank you.
Sexuality is one of the key cores of this film, and to what purpose? Is it just strictly in that very masculine? This is his one drive. He has this one sexual drive, and this is, you know, he just wants to get laid and all that sort of thing. Because he clearly loves Doris. It's more of he has a romantic drive in him as well. When he gets involved in the cause, he has an intellectual drive. There's no other way to say it. But above all else, there is this sexual drive that is there the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, it could just be something particular about his character. I think it's also something that cults take advantage of a lot. You know, is controlling people's sex lives and their desires, and I mean, I think it's central to Joaquin's character, but I don't know that it's one of the parts of the film that I think leaves it's one of those parts of the film that leaves you kind of questioning what it was for and what it was about. And yeah,
well, we end with the film with Freddie kind of at peace with him having sex, arguably for the first time since Doris.
Yeah.
Unless he was with people during the war.
I can't imagine that he was. I think it is probably the first time, and maybe there is something about having sex that he feels will connect him back to home in a way.
Yeah. Or have him just connect to another person.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he's looking for this entire time, is connection to, you know, to not feel like this nomad. Mad Men, Series 6, Episode 8, The Better Half, Betty in bed. Betty in bed saying, "Why is sex?" Oh, no, it's Don. Sorry, it's Don. And he goes, why is sex the closest two people can be? And Betty going, "I don't know, but it is. I know it is for me." Yeah. And then Don, I mean, I'm not going to recite a whole scene from Mad Men. We're going to stop this.
Go ahead, Tom. You're on a roll.
And then Don says, "I don't know, if we laid here and just held each other for an hour, I'd have felt as close to you as anything else." And that is an incredibly beautiful exchange talking about sexuality. But how does the scene end? They kiss a little bit more, it gets more passionate, and Betty has the great joke of, "Are you sure you don't want to hold me?" Because at the end of the day, you know, you can psychoanalyze sex and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, It feels good.
It's a human connection.
It's something there, and for people who are into that into that sort of thing, it's a visceral, immediate reaction, not unlike violence, not unlike anything else that we've talked about, with which the cause offers, which this offers. Next specific favorite part, because that's what we're doing, if you remember, is the portraits. Those just incredible. Those some of the 6 most beautiful shots he's ever done in his career. Is this Robert Elswit again? Let's double check. But of the portrait gallery of him doing the portraits in the play. Oh, I don't want the fucking master from Doctor Who. The hell is this?
Yeah, I've been getting that every time I Google something as well.
No cinematography by Milham Jr., who was the master. Jojo Rabbit, but that's always shooting Megalopolis with Francis Ford Coppola. Okay. We'll see how that goes. Some incredible stuff. The final exit from the department store after he beats W. Earl Brown with his tire skew. He's dragging out, I think her name's Dolly. He's dragging out this poor woman who I don't know how long that lasts, but I imagine it lasts as soon as they get out the door. Shots of Freddy running across the barren fields. Again, what we're talking about, as much as this film does have those scenes inside rooms, 2 people talking, it also has these incredibly beautiful vistas.
There's some shots of Freddy laying out on different parts of the ship over the water that I really just love. I think one where he's hanging in like a cargo net off the side of the ship with a bunch of other sailors all sleeping and taking naps. Yeah. He's sitting there reading his letters. Just a nice shot.
It's beautiful. There's lots of that in that first beach sequence. Lancaster Dodd saying this marvelous potion. Phillip Seymour Hoffman, Lancaster being at his most charismatic, going down the wedding aisle and going, "Good day, good day, good day, good day." Again, that pervasive sexual perverseness that's constantly in Freddy. Right, seeing the hot, sexy lady. Well, I guess she's not sexy. She's reading and she's got a riff on it. Anyway, this attractive woman at the desk.
He's clearly got a fixation.
Yeah, and he goes, "Do you want to fuck?" on the piece of paper, and just no reaction from her at all. And he's just amused by that.
How would you react? How would you react, Tom? What's the appropriate response?
I don't know. But I think she's like, "Oh, this poor silly man. Soon he will understand everything due to Dodd, due to Master." I've got 3 little specific favorite parts from the processing scene. Might as well say it one more time so you know who you are. What's your name?
Make sure you know who you are.
And then obviously infringement and 3 slaps, incredible. And then at the end, I try every single time to keep my eyes open as long as I can. And then at the end, close your eyes, and it's we cut to Doris flashbacks. Then from the pigfuck, the guy trying to bait him, trillions of years with a T. Yes, sir.
Yes.
I love Laura Dern, so her going, "Welcome to Philadelphia," I enjoy a lot. Lancaster talking to the police. "This is comic opera." I enjoy that a lot. Don and Freddy.
He's so full of himself at points, and I mean that is one of those things that makes you wonder how much of his own bullshit he buys, because he does seem to have this feeling that he can just get away with whatever he wants.
Yeah. Dodd and Freddy rolling on the front garden. Again, I don't know what the relationship is between them, but there is some sort of friendship, kinship, something.
Yeah, that's a strange one. Freddie and Donna.
I guess it's childlike.
It is childlike, but Freddie isn't. He is and he isn't, and their relationship is so childlike, but Freddie is so sexual and violent that I just feel deeply uncomfortable every time.
It's either that he sees him as his great white whale of, if the cause can make this person better, then I have succeeded and the cause works. But then also Lancaster doesn't fully believe in the cause clearly and is disinfatuated with it and has grown detached from it. But also by the end, he's into it again, even if Peggy is now the master or whatever and is controlling everything. Again, what we're trying to get at is that people contain multitudes, of course. That is the great joy of the film.
And I mean, at some point, you're in too deep. I mean, you can't be God's chosen one and then just stop giving that to people,
Amy Adams' monotone reading of Victorian porno. I'm going to go get the dildo from the cabinet. What else we got? Peggy's announcement, and it is here that we will present book 2. And in the book, A Gift to Homo Sapiens from Lancaster Dodd. Again, the beautiful motorcycle scene, which is, in a sense, this homage to all of Anderson's biggest influences, Melvin and Howard, which is a film by Jonathan Demme, who is a filmmaker who Anderson completely idolized and gets where he gets a lot of his influence from. And Jason Robards is in Melvin and Howard and is another figure, of course, he loves actor-wise, and of course managed to get him in Magnolia. I love Freddie at the London reception going, and who are you? Does Lancaster know who you are? And him picking up the thing and going, I took that picture. And the wonderful Winnie, Best Supporting Actress nominee, for her laugh as she falls back down on Freddie. So wonderful and sweet and charming. And again, it's that knife's edge of, is this a nice scene or is this just another nice, sweet girl who's going to get, I guess the only other way to say is corrupted by Freddie.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go on.
I mean, you've pretty much nailed all my weirdly specific favorite points. I mean, opening shots from the Navy, the wedding with Phillip Seymour Hoffman just being his usual charismatic self.
Yeah.
You've nailed it.
I think he has that one of his chief attributes to being a charismatic leader is the ability to make a joke. There is nobody wants to fall for this is completely stupid, Hitler and so many other people, but nobody wants to fall for the strict, I'm never going to make a joke. Whereas, I mean, and obviously they do, as we just said.
And it's what makes it so much more jarring when the mask does slip and he isn't being funny and affable and charming and letting things roll off his shoulders. When he does, let out that "you big fuck" line, so terrifying.
Within 5 minutes of one another at the conference, we have, and it's all very, very boring, and everybody laughs and he's lovely. And then within 5 minutes, what do you want, Helen? It's that juxtaposition.
It's what makes him feel dangerous, I guess, in a way. Like he feels even though we never necessarily see him do anything dangerous, we never see him like murdering somebody or anything like that. He just feels evil in a way.
Which, again, as we have seen time and time again, people confuse that with passion. And, and obviously that's a wonderful thing to have in a charismatic leader. And what's the old Norm MacDonald joke when he says, if I went back and, I just, fall in line with those, get sucked in by those beautiful blue eyes. Sorry, man. Oh, it's great. Best building or set in honor of Will Leggetter. I've got here, again, this sometimes turns into property corner, but the Athenia is a beautiful ship.
Yes, I love the
again, quite literally just the Sea Org. Did I tell you that the Sea Org docked next to us when we were in Aruba?
Really?
Oh. Yeah.
And no one understood why you were so excited.
And I was like, "Oh my God, it's the Sea Org!" It was a great day. Again, that was a day I had to stay on the ship. Who knows? If I didn't have to stay on the ship, I may have
Maybe if you just
got
jumped
him.
ship and
Yeah.
climbed on board, you could be in a cult right now.
I could have made some moonshine, killed an elderly Filipino man, and had to get on board the Athenia, which leads us on to best single minute. Let's talk about this now. I'll do them a little bit out of order. Killing the old man at the cabbage farm. You know, no, he drank too much. No, he's drinking too much. He's drinking too much. And yeah, them thinking he killed him. A sort of bizarre instigator, but is also perfect of he has to get away. And so there is a ship. He's going to get on there, and who knows where that'll take him. And again, yeah, no, it's a perfect instigator, especially after losing his job, which we go back to another single minute of him, again, seemingly for no reason, attacking W. Earl Brown.
Yeah. I think it also helps to establish how isolated Joaquin has remained since leaving the military. He can't find a place to belong. Everywhere he goes, he makes people mad at him, you know.
Did W. Earl Brown look familiar to you, David? We've watched a film where W. Earl Brown is in. You may know him better as Warren from There's Something About Mary, Cameron Diaz's brother.
Oh, God, I'm trying to picture it. Oh, he's that guy.
Yeah, he's that guy. Yeah.
Have you seen my baseball?
Have you seen my baseball? Have you seen my wiener? I'm sorry. Piggyback ride. My turn.
God, no, I did not recognize him.
Hi, Ted. It's great stuff. Martha the sales girl. What else do you want to see? Do you want to see these? And then that harsh yes. Again, he's so driven. Yes. And then cutting to dinner, and he's asleep and she's eating. Like his alcoholism overrides. It is this terrible combination of he's got this sexual perverseness that he needs to fulfill, but he's also an alcoholic, so that gets in the way of the sexuality, which then possibly is the instigator for the violence. You know, the built-up and all that sort of thing.
It's just an absolute mess.
Yeah, Freddie and best single minute nomination. Freddie and Clark going to see. Let's talk about Clark. Rami Malek in an early role, showing up and doing some good acting and going, yeah, okay, he's an interesting guy. Going to see the Moore guy, John Moore, who not picked on, wrong words at all, who challenged him at the party. Very reminiscent about certain Scientology tactics. And, have you watched Going Clear, the 3-hour Scientology documentary?
I have watched bits and pieces of it, yes.
Very, very good. Did
I ever tell you I accidentally walked into one of their processing centers in Los Angeles one time? Yeah.
No.
Right on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It looked like a museum, and I was just out for a stroll through Los Angeles, and I was like, "Oh, this looks interesting." Like there was a bust of what I later found out was L. Ron Hubbard.
That's the guy.
But I just saw like a cool looking bronze bust, and it looked like an art gallery or something. So I walked in, saw some literature on the table, saw whose name was on it, and went, "Oh." And then some woman behind the counter got up and started to walk over to me and asked if I had come in for some processing that day. And I said, "Oh, I'm all set. Thank you very much."
Yeah, I'm all set. Would you just do it if it was free? Well, no, that's how it's not. I wouldn't fall for it. But
I gotta say, I am curious. Yeah. I would like to, if I knew that nothing else bad was going to come of it and that I wasn't going to get sucked into something awful, I would absolutely love to sit through it sometime.
Yeah. Well, there we go. A roving with you, fair maid, in the key of G. And again, that wonderful naked, that single cut, and it's shot exactly the same way as reality shot, but we cut to Freddie and he's looking, and then we cut and all the women are naked. This is all he sees. This is all there is to it. This is the only way he sees women is as a sexual objects. Let's not even be cute here. I've got two. I'll talk about my runner-up. The porch scene with Doris's mother, and such a sort of weirdly sad but touching and all that sort of thing. And you're sort of happy that Doris did not fall apart. And I don't know if have you ever read Sweet Bird of Youth, the Tennessee Williams play? It's my favorite Tennessee Williams play. It's exceptional. And it starts off as is Paul Newman, who we meet as a gigolo for this actress. And he's talking about this Angel. I loved Angel, you know, she was my, you know, and he's going back to the hometown and he's going to meet Angel. He's going to marry Angel. And it's all this wonderful stuff. And then we later found out that she had to have a complete hysterectomy because he gave her an STD. And, you know, and so his idea of, I made love with this girl and it was this beautiful night. And then I left and one day I'm going to come back and all the shit that's happened in between. It's a great play. But the best single minute is without a doubt Amy Adams' mirror sync blowjob. Hand job. Which, yeah.
Viscerally uncomfortable.
And also, at what point did you realize what was happening?
I remember probably not as soon as I should have.
Yeah. You're like, she's coming to say hello. And she's cuddling him. Well, Phillip Seymour Hoffman's shaking rather vigorously. The line, get your best behavior out. I want a crocheted pillow with that. That's great.
Something about seeing this man who has like been controlling everyone around him throughout the whole movie, then reduced to a sub in bed, was just really horrifying for some reason.
And who do we see controlling London, more or less, come the end? Yeah. Peggy. Sure, she sat on the side, and Lancaster is the quote unquote lead figure.
We all know who's really running things.
Yeah. The wonderful, Lady Macbeth Dodd. What we got here? Oh yeah, a couple of soundtrack corner nominations. Slow Boat to China sang beautifully at the end, very nice. I Know Where I Know You From Now. Again, very bizarre. I Know Where I Know You From, and this concept of past lives and all that sort of thing. Doris singing Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree.
The Wild Rovers, or not the Wild Rover, a roving.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite Irish songs, so I was very happy to see it make an appearance.
And yeah, especially with Phillip Seymour Hoffman dancing with, with his handkerchief. Anytime I hear Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree, so your wonderful partner, Rian Holmes, was in a production where they all sang Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree, and I was singing along. Because I love Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree with everyone else but me. And then I was rewatching Arrested Development, and there's a great scene where Lucille Bluth is in the car with George Michael, and she's singing Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree. I can't believe you don't know this song, George Michael. And never in all my life, and it was like within a couple of days of sitting there and everybody, I shouldn't have been relating to the surrounding 40s characters. Wonderful stuff. Best lines. Do you have any that jump out, David, before I take them all?
I mean, none that you aren't about to zing out, but I mean, you pig fuck always jumps out, but we've already mentioned this. The line, might as well say it one more time so that we know that you know who you are.
I'm a writer, a doctor, a nuclear physicist, and a theoretical philosopher, but above all, I'm a man, a hopelessly inquisitive man, just like you.
Yeah.
My daughter's getting married. Come join us. Leave your worries for a while. They will still be there when you get back, and your memories aren't invited. And that's the sort of thing of, I'm sure if somebody described to me the Scientology as, it's about actually getting rid of all the negativity in your life, you'd be like, oh, that makes sense. That sounds nice. That sounds good. And that feels like a nice way of describing the cause. Leave your worries for a while. Your memories aren't invited. And that's what they talk about the whole time, of deconstructing the memories.
And that's the thing that ultimately I think makes the philosophy so damaging, is that you're just leaving these things behind, but you're not actually processing them or dealing with them. So I mean, you can stuff it down as long as you like, but eventually it's going to come back.
Get out. Again, Lancaster Dodd talking about how this is basically There Will Be Blood again in so many ways. What is this line but not, this makes you my competitor? When he says, if you leave me now, in the next life, you'll be my sworn enemy, and I will show you no mercy. It's great stuff. And again, I think that's a glimpse of the stuff that Lancaster actually believes. I'm sure he does believe in past lives and future lives. Does he believe in the stuff that has come about that from that over the course of 10 years? Maybe not, but I'm sure he does believe in past lives and reincarnation.
I think he is someone who is surprised by just how well he's caught on with people in a way. You get the sense that he's sort of flying by the seat of his pants in a way. I don't think he ever had planned to be this powerful in a way.
Another great line that glimpses at things that we never learn about. Peggy, another attack is being launched against him. People who are greedy, ex-wives. And again, we get no further information. No further information at all. But it's there, and we get a glimpse of everything that's come before. I've got here, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask big fuck? And it's that vulgarity that is known among Scientologists. There was a whole article about Elizabeth Olsen, star of Mad Men, and she is a Scientologist, and there is that known attribute of Scientologists of vulgarity, of profound swearing. When Freddie's doing the radio address, it works. I added that. And then in that porch scene with Doris's mother, she talks about the guy who she ends up with, and what's Freddie's first response? Is he still ugly? and so her name is Doris Day, like that Doris Day. Right, just very nice. I like that a lot. What's the change? I actually don't have any. All I've got here, and it's not the film's fault, is from the window to the wall. I cannot listen to them say that for 5 minutes without thinking of a certain song.
I don't know that I necessarily have any real changes either. I mean, I think I guess it comes back to Freddie's sexual aggression for me, but I feel like it's such a central part of his character. But I never quite get it, like why it's there necessarily.
I can see that. Yeah.
But I mean, it works the way it is. It's just strange.
Yeah.
But so is Freddie.
So is Freddie indeed. A few fun facts. During the jail scene, Joaquin Phoenix breaks a real toilet. His actions were entirely improvised. However, due to the historical past of the building where the scene took place, the toilet was considered historical. Joaquin had no intentions to break the toilet, nor did he think it was possible. Another acting possibility for Peggy was Reese Witherspoon. Again, I can see that. Same sort of vibe as Amy Adams. It could work.
I really liked Amy Adams in this. I feel like I don't see her enough.
Oh, I love Amy Adams so much. I love her so much. Amanda Seyfried and Emma Stone were considered for the role of Elizabeth, Lancaster's daughter. Again, both sort of in that mold. I can see that. Yeah,
I can see that.
Paul Thomas Anderson was going to use his own children for a quick shot in the portrait sequence. However, he has mixed race children with Maya Rudolph, so he thought that it wouldn't be period appropriate. It's sort of a glimpse at, above all else, the period appropriateness is the most important thing, and we see that time and again with There Will Be Blood, with Boogie Nights. People talk about the Coen brothers being period accurate, and this Anderson even more so. And there's stuff here about Joaquin Phoenix implementing a mouth device to get the crooked way his mouth moves. Yeah, indeed. We've talked about a lot of these Tom's big questions I've got. I put here, what did Freddie's fellow Marines think of him? Like the sand sculpture, like it starts off funny, but then he keeps fucking the sand sculpture, and it's like everybody laughs and then they slowly stop laughing. Also, was everybody a fan of him jacking off on the open beach?
Yeah, it's I mean, if I was in his unit, I imagine he's one of the dudes that everyone just kind of avoids, probably. I imagine conversations stop when he walks into a room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's like him
although
telling that crabs joke. You know, I've heard that crabs joke a million times, but the way he tells it, you know, you know, the old crabs joke of you shave half of your pubes and then they go over and you've got to burn the rest. But he doesn't say you've got to burn the rest. He says you get a nice pick and you fucking stab. It's like, okay, all right, calm down. Okay,
Yeah,
that's a good old sailor's joke, but what the fuck is this ice pick change?
you know, you just try. Sometimes you try things and they just don't land.
Yeah, I don't understand that, David. I've never made a joke that hasn't landed very well. When does Val get back on board? So, like, he sort of disappears for 10 minutes, but then he's back in London. I guess it's some. That's a stupid question. Sometime in between.
I think. I imagine he probably tries to get out and realizes that this thing is bigger than him now, in a way.
Yeah. And money. They're all clearly well off.
You know, it's tough to say. I think it became bigger than he is, and he realized he could make a lot of money at it if he just kind of accepts the fact that it's beyond his control now, in a way.
Yeah. Lovely little subtle thing in the final scene with Peggy. You know, where's Elizabeth? Elizabeth is in the DCF, which is clearly a reference to the RPF, which is the Rehabilitation Project Force, and again a glimpse at all the real lives of all this sort of stuff. I considered whether or not the burying of the life's work out in the middle of the desert, is that an attempt to sort of make a myth around the religion, like a sort of, you know, these original texts were dug up in the desert. And I mean, obviously Joseph Smith.
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I think a lot of what Phillip Seymour Hoffman, or of what Lancaster is doing throughout this movie, is sort of myth building around himself, in a way. You know, going out to the desert to bury your holy scriptures smacks of.
But then again, it's also what do you call it? Just paranoia and the paranoia and the disbelief, not disbelief, the paranoia and the pain and the fear that smacks of all this religion, of all of these religions. Yeah. And that brings us to the end of The Master. Our next section, we've got our three final films, which are Inherent Vice, Phantom Thread, and Licorice Pizza. Licorice Pizza and Inherent Vice feel of akin to one another. Phantom Thread feels completely singular and is hilarious and is dark and is wonderful. I love Phantom Thread. I also love Licorice Pizza, of course.
So sorry. Got one final question.
Go ahead.
Think the cause worked for Freddy? I mean, he is arguably at peace by the end of the movie.
Do you think? Yeah,
do you think he could have been there without Lancaster Dodd?
That is the. I think there is something. I think there is an element of intellectualizing his grief and thinking about his life, which he would get in therapy, which was never going to be available to him, and the cause takes it to dangerous levels that are used for manipulation and are used for psychological damage, but certain tenets of asking questions about your life, interrogating those things, are the tenets of therapy, which, of course, Freddie was never going to get. And so I think, for better or for worse, he's had a very dangerous form of therapy, which will have done some sort of damage, but also, for lack of a better way to say it, can't do much worse than how he already was you know. And so any sort of, you know, is this the first time he has ever talked to a person about fucking his aunt? Probably. Yeah. And so these things coming up, again, the cause takes it to a level of indeed psychological damage, I have no doubt. But for Freddie, I think you're right. Yeah. For better or for worse, those things have worked. I don't know if he has a long, happy life with Winnie. I don't know what. Freddie feels like a lost soul to me. He will never be at peace, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's never. What is he going to have a steady job?
Who knows what the future holds for Freddie Quill?
Or Freddie Quell, but who knows what was going to happen to Paul Lancaster Dodd with Peggy? You know, that's as dangerous a thing as anything else. David, thank you very, very much. This has been The Master. I will see you in 4.5 months.
Sounds good.
I don't know what you're going to think about Inherent Vice.
I'm excited to find out.
I think you'll be. I think, for lack of a better way to say it, when it first was coming out, I thought, oh, we're going to get a Boogie Nights again. It's going to be fun and it's going to be 70s and it's going to be funny. And it is, but it is also very complex and very mysterious and all that sort of things. So I don't know. Who knows? That's that.
We'll see
Thank
you
you
then.
very much. See you then.